Hey everyone, Cory from Aquariumcoop. Today I'm checking in on a Sunday. The tank got polished. So what does that mean? Well, it used to be all scratched up, and you can still see there are some scratches, but it used to be way more. Now those were a little bit deeper and would have taken like 10 more hours to sand out. But the goal was to get it to look good on video and just in person. And so this used to be just nothing but scratches. And now you can barely see that there are any in there. So, sorry, basically mission accomplished. Now, we've done a big reset here. We've moved the tank, we got it polished, we had to wait. You know, part of this content lull is I had to wait 6 weeks to get it polished, right? And you can see there's lots of compound, polishing compound that got flung on to the back, even some on the wall when they were doing the outside here. Ow, that just gave me a splinter. That was not my best move. There's a hole there. Anyway, I'll have to pull that out later. And so we were waiting on that, we got that done. Now we're filling with water, and the next thing that I want to do is get this sliver out of my finger, is get rid of all the algae and stuff that's growing on the background. If you see here, it's almost like a purple color. That was blackbeard algae. It dries kind of a purpley color. You can see there's a little bit up there as well. And a bunch down here. Now there's a lot of bubbles. So the bubbles, I'm gonna try to teach as much as I can in this video because that's the only reason I really make videos anymore. The bubbles, in case you guys ever wondered, like, why do you get all these bubbles when you do a big water change? Well, what happens is the water temperature coming in to your water heater is cold, usually. So that's why you'll see this happen more in the winter. So colder water can hold more air. Well, when you heat that water up in a water heater, and then it comes to here, well, now the air wants to escape, and it typically arrives on the side of your glass or acrylic here and kind of bubbles off. So that's why we get all these bubbles, and you notice it when you do big water changes. Now, when you don't do a big water change, you might go, well, I don't see it happen then. Well, yeah, the water is marinating or mixing with all the other water, so you don't see it as much. So if you're doing small water changes, you can see here, this is just fluff from the polishing pads and everything. So that's one of the reasons why we're gonna be doing water changes, and I'm gonna net some stuff out, and we're actually gonna bleach. So I'm gonna use bleach on this aquarium, which I've been using on a few aquariums, and I don't use bleach very often. Only when I get a contaminant I really don't want, or I'm doing a big reset like this. And in this instance, I wanted to help get the polishing compound out. And I think it'll just help. Plus there's, right there we've got that green next to the purple, black purple, that's Java moss. Now that Java moss, I don't want it just to take over the tank long term. It was constantly, I had to pull it out and fight it. And with a tank this big, getting in, it's not the same as just like, oh yeah, just grab it, manual removal. And when you get to tanks this big, that's not really applicable anymore. So I'm just gonna use standard kind of Clorox bleach here. And why would you use bleach? So the good news about bleach is it's basically super strong chlorine, which means we can use a dechlorinator to get it back out. So we put a bunch in, let it do its magic. I'm gonna fill it up more, but I turned the water off so I could actually film. And let it do its magic for a week or two, at least a week. Let it marinate. And once everything is really dead, and I'll show you what that looks like, then we can go ahead and basically drain it down, put gravel, plant it, fill it back up. And I'll show you how I'm going to do that over time. So for now, we're just gonna kind of glug this in there. See if I can do this on camera without making a mess. There we go, that's bleach. That should be, I want to leave a little bit in case I want to do another project. You can kind of see it, a little bit of a cloudy color going in there. It's going to smell like a pool in here for like a week. So let me get the cap back on that. Don't splash that in your eye, by the way. And I will be filling that back up. You do want agitation. You want to make sure it gets mixed. So right now I've got air going. And this is another reason I love air. I love air to help mix. Yes, it will gas off some of the chlorine and everything, but just like we put chlorine in here, or bleach, we want that to hit everywhere. We also want that to happen with fertilizer. So if you were dosing, Easy Green or something like that, you need to deliver it to your plants. So another reason I love air. Now the canister filters, they're not on right now. They've been sitting and dying, right? So we're gonna look at that over here, talk about that a little bit. You can see there's one right there actually. There's an FX5, or an FX6 I guess it is now. And we've got this big Eheim one sitting over here. Now they've been sitting here for a month at least. They are completely dead and rancid. They've got no oxygen, they're turned off from the world. And I could hook them back up today and run bleach through them and kill everything. Now, just because I've killed everything, doesn't mean everything's dead in there. There's actually bacteria and other stuff, anaerobic stuff going on. So what my plan is I'm gonna take these filters, and when I'm ready to set back up, I'm actually not going to clean them. What? Why would you do that? Because I want them to spit a bunch of gunk back into the tank. There's a little bit of ammonia in there, and that will be the process that helps start up the seasoned aquarium that I like. Now, there will be plants, yep, we'll be doing stuff like that too, but the goal is not to start brand new. That takes more work. I wouldn't want that if I can help it. So if we look over here, we've been bleaching some aquariums. Some are, like this one right here, completely got bleached. Some of the snails made it through, which I find amazing, that the Malaysian trumpet snail can survive that. And then if we kind of come way down here, see this one, where we wanted to kill the Java moss, and we had some bladderwort, and wanted to make sure that there was no blue-green algae or any pests that I could think of. So now these decorations are ready to play in another aquarium. In the background, you can basically see, let's see if I can get the light on it there. I need to get some shrimp or something in there to eat that dead algae. We got the same thing going on down here. This was the eel tank. You can see all the dead algae across the back. You can see it on the sponge filter. You can see killed some nerite snails. I couldn't find them originally and they died unfortunately. And then the Malaysian trumpet snails made it again, which these guys are magical. This tank also got reset. Now this plant, I'm gonna have to use shrimp and stuff. I wanna save the lobitis. This was from the 800 gallon. The hard to grow plant, slow growing, but I've got algae that I want. So I'm gonna have to use some stuff to kind of remedy that. I've also planted some crypnuries. These are from tissue culture. Kind of some cool patterns on them, just playing with them. And then let's see, over here, temperature shock on my crypts has been melting them, so that's fun. You can see that right here. And you see this little nub doing nothing. It'll probably come back. Same with these guys. They went from a tank that's 71 to now they're at a tank of 82, right? And we still got blackbeard algae on the filter. We've got hair algae on this plant, and I want to plant them and do stuff. But mostly right now, this tank is kind of quarantine, or not quarantine, but grow out, whatever you want to call it, for these clown loaches and these tetras. And eventually they'll go in the 800 gallons. So they kind of just been chilling here, getting fed really well. One of the products that'll be coming out eventually will be some freeze-dried bloodworms. Not every fish loves freeze-dried bloodworms, but stuff that like clown loaches and bettas and that kind of stuff typically do. So I put some of these in here. What I like is you can hear them eat clown loaches anyway. And if we sit still enough for long enough, which is always good video, right? We just chill back here and I can talk to you guys. You see that reflection, which wasn't planned, but we'll get to see all those clown loaches go up and eat. And that's one of the things that I really miss. If you guys remember what the 800 gallon used to be originally, clown loaches, tiger barbs, cryptocorn plants, some vallisneria. And we're gonna do something similar this time, I think. So that's why I'm working on just making sure I got a nice group of loaches. I like that schooling behavior they do. I like the pack mentality they've got. And I love when they do funny stuff. So you can see them getting braver and braver. We'll listen for when they do the little sound. So yeah, we also got the eel in there. They get any movement from me. They're still, when clownloaches are young like this, anything under about 4 inches, they're still like real babies, like under a year old. And so they're super skittish. Now I need to come up with a clever way. I wasn't expecting to have this big glare on this tank. It was set up, it was doing fine, it was a backdrop behind my desk. And then we moved the 800 gallon and now it shows. So I might have to create some kind of a blind or something, or just live with it, I guess, or turn the lights off when I'm filming, any of those. It doesn't look so bad in person but the camera really accentuates, you see the glare like it's nothing, right? Or not like it's nothing, but like it's pretty prominent. So yeah, but the clown loaches, just watching that in big groups, especially when they start getting 6 inches or so, is really fun in the 800 gallon. You can see the eel on the right hand side in his cave that we made with some ABS pipe underneath that plant. You can see he's even thinking like, hey, there's some worms up there. I should probably investigate these guys. But he's much more shy than these guys up here. So yeah, this is behind my desk and this is what I've been working on. It's been going real slow. We've been having, I don't want to call them setbacks, stuff going on with the retail expansion and the retail store and just all kinds of stuff. So every day has been a new adventure of like, okay, I guess we're gonna work on that today. And every time, the problem with aquariums for me is I'm really trying to treat them as my hobby and not as my business. And so that means I work on them when I have free time. And unfortunately, that hasn't been a lot lately. But I think the end is coming where it's like, okay, we'll have a bunch of time to play with these aquariums. And so I'm basically every week just doing a little bit, like, okay, get one more little tank kind of cleaned up, get a little ready, plant a few more plants, move a few more plants, plan to get a couple more fish. I've already got the 800 gallon planned out, which is great. But yeah, I mean, to me, this is one of the most quintessential fish, the clown loach. When they act like this, when you've got enough of them, it's an expensive investment. These guys are getting more and more expensive as everything in the world gets more expensive. And but they live super long time if you take care of them well. They like to be warmer temperatures. That's why the crypts are melting back. The Bulbitis doesn't care, and the algae doesn't care, but the crypts, anytime you make a major change with cryptocorns, they can have a dieback. And really, when you're buying plants, you're just buying roots. And so as long as the roots are there, usually you'll get a plant that comes back. Unless the clown loaches won't stop harassing them, which these guys are little, so it won't be too much of a problem. But the hope will be to get the tank, the 800 gallon, planted and kind of thriving, then start adding some of these little buddies in there so that they don't dig them up, because they're pretty rambunctious. But it takes a lot. It'll take not a whole day, but quite a bit of a day just to put 500 pounds of substrate in. It doesn't sound like a lot. Like I've got the boxes right there too. Like there's 40 pounds in each box. There's 4 boxes so far. It doesn't sound like it's gonna take that long, but it does when it's like, okay, well, 500 pounds, like, oh, that's, if each one's 20-pound bag, right? That's 25 bags. So, and you just put it in a corner, like, oh yeah, just put it in that corner. Yeah, that's what you think you do, but you gotta spread it out, right? And then you gotta put decor in, and then you gotta start planting. So it'll be a whole day probably. I've got a lot of mopping to do, which I'm glad I waited because all this is the rubbing compound, which is basically this here. So it goes on, and the compound is like, if you feel with your hands, you're just like, kind of feels like flour. But that's all the abrasive you need when you're polishing the acrylic. And so, if you don't know, acrylic empty looks terrible normally. And when you fill it with water, it looks a lot better. So I'm pretty confident that this thing's gonna look clean as a whistle. And I wanted to point out some other stuff like our light, where people go, oh, it's too orange or too yellow, right? A lot of this stuff has to do with how is your aquarium set up. So these are our lights. And if I was looking at it right now, I would say they're too blue, right? The biggest difference that people don't realize a lot of times, it really matters what color your substrate is. I like browns. Browns look natural to me. Nothing, you get this real blue, right? So if we look over here, same lights. We've got a natural colored gravel. Now you might go, well, that's too yellow, or maybe it's fine for you. It's fine for me. Got my goldfish here. Mom and dad, little baby, was born here. Haven't done a whole lot with this, obviously. You know, that's pretty apparent everywhere. And I guess a lot of what I wanted to chime in on is, one, I'm ashamed it's taking me this long. So there's that. Let's get that out of the way. Two, there's always like, you're just changing your stuff never looks good, Cory. Yeah, I get it. But I also think some of you guys and gals have the same problem. Life got busy. It's the middle of summer. You know, you're slowly, the problem is, like, I love this tank, and I started moving some crypts. You can see here the crypts that even got pulled up that didn't get moved because temperature didn't move, still thriving. These crypts went to the big tank, melted back a little bit. But what I'm trying to say is, you know, like, oh, I want this to move over there and this to move over there, but there's steps, like, oh, I had to get rid of all the turtles, so that happened. And I still need to clean all this decoration with some bleach and stuff so I don't move anything. We did get all of this clean, so that's good. I can start working on maybe this end tank down here. But each one is, it's kind of like, you know, imagine you're like, oh, I want to do something in the garage. We got to clean the garage first, right? And that's where we're at right now is, oh, we got to do a thing, and then we could do the other thing, and then we could do the other thing. And all the desks, like for all the videos I want to do, we're slowly kind of gathering parts and ideas. And you can see here, I want to do some videos with M&Ms and everything, explaining how plant fertilizer works and the nitrogen cycle works and all that kind of stuff. And still need to buy some more meters and stuff, you know. Got some new products on the way, which is good. Probably won't be here till September, October area, or time, not area. So yeah, that's really what's going on. I guess it's mostly just an update, and I realize that YouTube a lot of times is flashy, like, look, I just did this big thing. But then I think there's other stuff to be done, like testing. Like, here's one. Maybe you guys, you know, want to know about this instant brine shrimp. I've tested the brine shrimp, the rotifers, the daphnia, the adult brine shrimp, and my takeaway, we contacted the manufacturer and everything. My takeaway is it's just too expensive. This is $10. And I think if we could get this down to like $5, it makes some sense in the market. I don't like the adult brine shrimp at all. In fact, I can feed and show you guys that stuff, because this is what I do all day long every day is I find products, I learn about products, I test products, I try to see, does this make sense in the market? So yeah, here we go. Here's all the testers that I've been doing. And you can kind of see, you got to keep them refrigerated after you open them. And so let's start with something like, let's see, here's the rotifers. Here's some baby brine. The adult brine is just, I feel like, gross. And what I mean by that is, I'm not sure it's better in any way than frozen food. I use 2 hands for this. So you get this little pouch like you're gonna, you know, like your little kid gonna eat some applesauce. And it just, the fish will eat it, but you can see they're not even that jazzed about it. See how it just kind of sinks to the bottom there? So that's not great. And then you can go with like, okay, what about the baby brine shrimp? Like, that should be pretty good. It also will separate too, so you gotta kind of mix it up. So they're still like, bro, how about you feed us? I'm like, all right, let's try it. You guys want some of this? How about this $10? You into that $10? Yep, they're into that $10, a little bit more, but they still are spitting it out. And they're like, yeah, you tricked us. Why isn't this the food that you want to launch, Cory? Like, well, let's put some of that in there. So we put that in. And, you know, they're kind of all about that right now. If we try the daphnia, that's what this is here. Oof, here's a sign. I haven't been dosing Easy Green at all. You can look at the plants turning translucent. So when you see that, that's starving. And there's not a big fish load in here anymore. Used to be, so I could put a lot of food in. So I'm out of balance, I need to dose. So there you go, you see the Daphnia. The Daphnia is really underwhelming, in my opinion. If you've ever fed live Daphnia or cultured it, brutal bad. And then you've got these baby rotifers right here, which are settled out. So there we go, we got them back to, put a little bit of this in this tank. We'll see if I can show you. Oh, there's some of the baby bettas that were released when we got rid of all the adults, and I've just been raising these little guys up. That happens sometimes in a breeder fish room where it's like you tried to get rid of it and you were too good at your job, as in you made more, and then you kind of get round two going. So there's the rotifers, which is kind of a saltwater thing. Freshwater will eat it, but yeah, they're not a big fan of that either, right? So at $10, I feel like this thing's really got to be good. It's got to be better than, maybe hatching it out, or better than dry. But in my testing, when I make them, when I do the taste Pepsi challenge or whatever, most all fish would prefer this dry food that we'll launch eventually, hopefully. Like, they could be going after this, and they are a little bit over here, but once they get a sniff of this dry, even the big fish are like, yeah, I'll eat this. This popcorn chicken essentially I'm about that. So another little thing, we turned down the lights, right? So there's only one light run on this one, and it's at about 20%. Intentionally, what do we notice here? Anubias starting to look pretty good. There's still blackbeard algae and stuff, but my goal was, hey, let me just turn this way down and not have to fight much algae. And yeah, I've got some big old fatty Amano shrimp in here too, which hopefully, that's how I like to win a battle. So turn the light way down so algae growth slows way down. Put some guys in there that want to eat it. They're looking for the food. Let me feed these guys too. Put someone that wants to eat it in there, and then just give it time. I feel like patience is something we can't sell anybody, and nobody has. And I've got tons of it outside. Like, if I didn't have to show things on YouTube, my projects would be years long, because I don't, people aren't going, show us now, what's the update? I love this food because it'll settle on everything and let the shrimp go nuts for it. But, letting this, if this takes 2 more months, then that's perfect. It's kind of amazing to me. I'd rather do that than have to always bleach everything. I want to keep this, gravel that's fully inoculated with life and poop and all of that. Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of slow and steady is what wins the race for me. This tank will be torn down too, which it's doing pretty good with just one light since we turned the light down. Algae's receded, crypts are doing pretty good. This Lone Ranger came from one of the turtle tanks. He's had some equilibrium problems for the last 2 years, pretty much. So yeah, it's gonna keep feeding and talking, I suppose. Crypts are still doing gangbusters in here. Anubias just floating there, waiting to go to a different tank, still doing well. The shrimp colony in here is just bananas. These, well, I guess they're blue, but they're like a black shrimp almost. And same thing, I like this better than like a Bacter AE in my opinion. When it lands on everything. Oh, you can see the scuds in here. So because there's no fish anymore, the scuds, I'll see them from across the room. You can see them swimming across. And great fish food, usually kept in check by fish. But since there's no fish, yeah. And because there's no fish, a lot of the plants are real stubby because there's not enough poop, not enough nutrients. You see just baby little, well, those are big shrimp there, but in the, like you see there, there goes lots of scuds, but there's also baby shrimp mixed in. Yeah, why can't I see it on camera? Right there. So that baby little shrimp, and there's a baby little shrimp right there. even though scuds are bigger, they can all cohabitate. They say scuds eat plants, and I guess technically they can, but they mostly feed on detritus. Things are dying. So, you know, I don't try not to worry about that. Still need to work on this tank. Give them some food. I like this food because it just can go everywhere and feed everything in there. Which I realize I'm just teasing you guys because I don't have it for sale yet, but working on it. Give you guys some. Give you some more. You got a lot of shrimp in there too. Crip's doing pretty good. Unfortunately, this is a tank that I will bleach. You've got the Cladophora algae. You've got the Java moss taking everything over. You've got, there's bladderwort in here somewhere. And then, yeah, this nuisance green algae jelly stuff. So to get rid of all that, it's gonna be a reset, but I gotta catch everything out. And it's gotta go somewhere too. That's the other part, is it has to go somewhere. And because not all my tanks are kind of seasoned, I don't wanna move a big load of fish and shrimp to like this tank and then go, oh no, they're crashing. So, yeah. All right, well, I think that's the update. As boring as that update is, that's honestly how a fish room goes without doing the YouTuber thing, which I've done for many years, and that is, let's set up a brand new tank. Let's do a thing. Let's make the video for the sake of making a video instead of doing a project I want to do. And really, I just want tanks around my desk that look pretty good, that I'm enjoying. Fish are breeding, low maintenance, not biting off more than I can chew. I'm still working towards the 10. I've got the let's see, 3, 6, 9, 12 here. I've got 15. I still got to scale down. I could argue that one shut down. So I got to scale down 4 more tanks. But because I'm doing musical chairs, I haven't scaled the other 4 down yet. So my order of operations is scale down 4 more, get to 10, and then spin up all 10 to look good. 800 gallon being one of the longest projects, so I'm starting that early. And the 125 just made sense because I needed to put some fish somewhere. And then these 40s, I don't really even have, I've got like 1 or 2 sets of fish picked out. I got 1 set of shrimp picked out. But yeah, I want some room to go, all right, they're looking good. They don't all have to be stocked with fish. They could just be good planted tanks with shrimp and then come back in and go, ooh, I found the perfect fish. And so that's where I'm at. Instead of, doing a big weekend, getting it done, slow and steady, done by the end of summer is the hope. And of something I'm upkeeping myself, enjoying myself, got the stuff I want to do, still got a little bit of room to test the products, got the different build out of the desks so I can make those videos for you guys. Yeah, so thanks for hanging out, even though it's a slow lull. I know it's the summer and all that. Some of you guys have been around for 10 plus years on YouTube with me. Some of you guys have been here for just a minute. And, I think with a hobby, the longer you've been in it, the more you know there's ebbs and flows to it. If you're just now getting into it, you don't understand why couldn't I be spending 1,000 hours a week and all these are teaming with it. It's like, well, I've been doing it for a while, kind of a long time now. And there's much more for me to manage, by the way. You guys see this, but you don't see like, well, what's the plan for the 1,500 gallon at the retail store? What's the plan? I made adjustments to the tank with Elmer, the pignose turtle, yesterday because I was at the store. Like, there's a lot of systems. I get emailed reports every week. So like all the tanks in Kentucky for the plant systems, like, okay, we're monitoring temperatures, one of the things we're working with right now, and all of that. So there's a lot of day-to-day. I am overseeing loosely 300-400 aquariums, right? Where these ones are okay. It's all me all the time. Only 10 in my direct, like I can get my hands wet real easily. Then you've got another 200 at the store, which is like, okay, yeah, I'm 45 minutes away. I can go work on those, which I do. And then you've got the ones in Kentucky where it's like, well, I fly out there every 3 months or so and, look things over, have meetings and do all of that, meet the teams that are working on them. And I'll be in Kentucky in August, in fact. So, a lot of getting pulled in a lot of different directions, but the reality is every day, all day is aquariums for me. It's just not always on mine. And that's, I think, a hard thing for me to get my head around, and the viewers too, to just, why wouldn't you just get all of yours done? And the reality is, if I fix that piece of algae, like right there, that's good for me. If I fix that same algae in the retail store, that's good for 1,000 people. If I fix that that hair algae that is in the sump or something at the warehouse, that's good for 10,000 people this month, right? And so I kind of gotta prioritize and just make sure that everything isn't getting too out of whack. And I've always, over the last few years, prioritized your guys' money where you're spending compared to my enjoyment. So now I'm just working on the balance of getting it down to where I can enjoy fewer tanks, which, by the way, that tank still is cloudy with that substrate. No matter what we do, you can see the clarity. Bleach that thing, great. Other tank beside it, great. All three of those tanks had the same substrate. It's that substrate. So we'll be swapping that substrate out when we bleach as well. But in general, I want to focus on making sure your guys' money spent is good with products and plants and all of that. And then my own hobby for enjoyment. Because it's really hard for me to enjoy my stuff if I know there's something wrong in the business. So I focus there first. And then it allows me to relax and enjoy watching, the clown roaches or whoever's doing something back here, which, by the way, you see how that white cloudiness is there? Same substrate. I just kind of like that substrate, but I might swap it. I just don't like it not being clear. And even though I could water change that thing 1,000 gallons today, it'll be that color. Where these tanks right here, this one's still it's got a little bit of chlorine in it, so it still looks a little cloudy, but they get crystal clear. And I realize you're seeing 800 gallon. That's what that is right there, 800 gallon. So I'll definitely have to set up different lights for different film. All right, well, thanks for hanging out for half an hour. Hopefully you guys are puttering around on your tanks. If you want to say thanks or you need something, order from us at aquariumcoop.com or buy from a local partner store. Either of those would be greatly appreciated during the summer especially. And we'll see you in the next one. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me the last 10 years.